Hello, welcome to Breakaway with Dawn and Friends. Today I'm excited to have Claudia here with me.
Hi, Don.
Hi. So you know we're gonna go deep. So whether this is your first time tuning in or you've been journeying along with us, this is a safe space for people to come and explore their personal growth and transformation, and most importantly finding our true selves in the midst of our beautiful life. So I feel I always forget to tell people that when I open up these conversations. So I was determined today to remind people why they come here.
Mhm.
And if I do have some newcomers,
Right.
what they can expect. So Claudia's my dear friend, and we come on here and just have girlfriend conversations about different topics. So I try to mix it up, but she is my favorite, and she is the fan favorite too. So I do have her a lot. So thank you for joining us,
Sweet.
Claudia.
Thank you so much for having me, Don. It's my pleasure.
So today I want to talk about something that's in all of our lives that is crucial. It's, especially when, life throws us those curveballs, right?
Yes.
So we're going to
Yes.
talk about resilience.
What a great topic, Don. I appreciate the subjects you bring because it entices us to have these really deep and meaningful conversations. And I'm hopeful, just as you, right, to always reach a few people out there in hopes that it resonates with them. So thank you
Yes.
for bringing it.
Yes.
Yes.
I hope so too. Because I really, all of these, when we have these conversations, I just want people to connect with themselves
Hmm.
as well as
Right.
their loved ones. And, so I always want to challenge and just bring that to the forefront. So, um, and then I do base it on my experiences or what I'm seeing. So if people are
Yes.
wondering, it's just depending on the week and what I've been, drawn to or what's been popping up is what I
Yeah.
end up talking about. And, I'm that middle child. So I have middle child syndrome. So, resilience is what gets me through, let me tell you, right? So that's
That's right.
inner strength for me, right? So to me, it's inner
Right.
strength. It's that capacity to bounce back,
Hmm.
right? To see,
Yeah.
to rise after we fall. Um, you know, for me, when I think of resilience, that's what I think.
Yeah, I like that. I think along those same lines is it's almost like you're creating extra thick skin or a layer of skin to help you get through the next round of potentials, right? Because there's always going to be those potentials where we know that life, as much as we'd love for it to be just very passive and easygoing, and we're always lifing, like you say, Don.
Yeah.
And I think that resilience is that's where it stems from, right? So that's what I think when I think about resilience.
Yes. It's that bouncing back, but it's also the what's that word? The diversity. Is it no, adversity, excuse me.
Adversity. Okay.
Adversity, right? It's about adapting to adversity, right?
Hmm.
So life will always life, right? And I had a thought and I lost it because you said something so good that sparked a thought. But yes, it'll always life, but it's
Hmm.
how we keep moving, right?
Yes. Right.
Forward is what gets us through, right? And I always say, the only way through something is through it,
Absolutely.
right?
Oof. Yes.
Right? And I always say that it's like it's the hardest thing, right? Like, but you just got to stay steady and determined and say, I will rise again.
Yes, I will rise again. Yes, because okay, as we all know, right, sitting with that feeling of feeling uncomfortable, that uneasiness that we feel when we're going through that to go down that path that we
Hmm.
know we're going to eventually see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Hmm.
But that's been coming up a lot. And I think Don, in these days, I don't know what it is, if it's some kind of climate out there in the universe, if you will, but there's a lot happening where I hear more and more people experiencing these moments where
Yes.
which is great, which is why, again, I think kudos to you for bringing up the topic of resilience, because it's something that we all can benefit from.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yes. I think that like people forget we're going through things, like it's a part of our journey, right? And I think people tend to always think about like the outcome or the destination and not realize this is your journey. And I'm going to say it, I'll be a broken record. Resistance meets is met with resistance, right? So when you're going through something, and like you said, yes, we know there's eventually we'll, get through it or over it. But I think people, when you're in the midst of it, you do forget that, right?
Yes.
And so I think if you just stop and try to, okay, what can I learn? What is it? I really feel that can help you move through it because
Sure.
resilience isn't about ignoring pain or
No.
hardship, okay? It's
No.
about
It's not.
facing it head on and knowing that you're capable of working through it. And, as a life coach, I see many people who believe resilience means being strong all the time, and it's
No.
not. I'm here to tell you it's not true. Resilience is more about how you deal with being vulnerable and getting through that struggle. Like that is what it is. You don't have to be strong. You don't always have to be, you know, on top of
Right.
things, right?
Exactly, exactly. And thank you for saying that. I appreciate that comment, because a lot of times you're right. People will say, well, I'm not strong enough, or allowed myself to, to cry, or allowed myself to feel, or whatever that experience may be. That's not resilience. You're right.
No.
It's understanding yourself. And if you're ever in a place of vulnerability, because that's huge, that's when the real work comes in, right?
Hmm.
Is
Hmm.
allowing yourself to be in that space so that you can formulate resistance,
Yeah.
please. Resilience.
And I don't want to go off subject, but I do want to say this, okay? I challenge people because I know it's very hard to be vulnerable. If that's hard for you, think about that childhood. Like think about that child in you
Yeah.
when you were growing up. Was it like the relationship you had with your parents? Or, was it something, because I feel we are born a certain way, right? We're wired a certain way, but your your environment will play a factor into
Yeah.
shaping you, right? So if you can't get vulnerable, you really need to reflect on the past. And I think people need to remember, like, because that happened to me. Like, remember I told you guys, like, I dealt with emotions or dealt with things by not dealing with them, right? And
Right.
just compartmentalizing them. And so I
Hmm.
wasn't emotionally available, right? And so,
Right.
um, but it took me all these years to figure that out. And so vulnerability it can be a beautiful thing, And so I do challenge you to think about that because it you are bringing it into your current friendships, relationships, marriage, whatever, even your work, even with work, like whatever, like you really need to, I would suggest just look into that without getting off,
Yes.
but just because vulnerability is a key to this, right?
Hmm.
So if
Right.
that's hard for you, I would really challenge you to look into that. But when we think about, okay, like resilience, what actually happens in our minds and our bodies, when we're being resilient, when you're faced with that adversity, our brains trigger stress response. Remember we
Yes.
recently talked about that fight or flight, right? And
Hmm.
so that's what we know as fight or flight, right? So
Right.
flight or fight, yeah, fight or flight, my goodness, sorry. But resilience is the ability to manage that stress, right? To regulate our emotions
Right.
and to think clearly when everything feels so overwhelming.
And that's part of the resilience skill building piece that we all need, right? Is helping yourself break through out of these thought cycles or negative things that we experience, or pushing back against certain what we call in the world of the mental health field is catastrophizing. So a lot of times we
Mm,
make things bigger than what they are, and we find ourselves trying to get ourselves out of that thought, which could be very hard. But anyways, that'll lead you on into this rabbit hole. So is yeah, so going back to what you're saying is really, building on those resilience skills, because it's a skill set just like anything
Mm-hmm.
else, right? It takes time
Mm-hmm.
to learn, just like anything else. You adapt, you implement, and then you continue to apply as time progresses.
Yes, I was going to say that's not something you're born with, right? So it's something that you can strengthen, something you can make stronger, easier for you. Like, like with that practice, the more you do it, the better it, it's like a muscle. I always say a lot of things are like a muscle. It takes practice, right?
Right.
So I think self awareness and intention, I'm so big on that. And that's where we, I should say me as a coach, can come in and help build those muscles so that when life get tough, you have the tools to respond with confidence and grace.
There you go. There you
That's a
go.
plug there.
I
Right?
like
Because I think people forget, this is not therapy.
right. It's not.
I'm not a
And that's
therapist, okay? But that's my plug into life coaching. I help you with the tools that you need. Sorry, Claudia, I'm too funny,
no,
but
that's okay. No, so I was gonna say, so somewhere along those lines, right? Is where you're establishing, like you said, you're building a muscle. If you don't use it, you lose it, right? So you want to
yes.
practice those healthy habits to formulate building resiliency, right? So it takes time. So regularly thinking about what that could look like, or regularly, what you said earlier, Don, is do some reflection on the circumstance that you're trying to get through, for example, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
according to one, like essentially our values, how we perceive ourselves. So it's a lot of the inner work that you're doing here, right? Because you don't magically wake up and just have
No,
resilience.
no, you don't. Yeah, like, yeah, you're not born with it. Yes.
Mm-mm.
So, in life, you're going to get stuck, right? We all have barriers that get in the way of resilience.
Yeah.
Fear of failure, self doubt, perfectionism. Oh my God, that's a big one. And
Oh,
overwhelmed, and I see it a lot in people. They often are feeling too. They're just in their feelings too much. Do you know what I mean? And how it gets them overwhelmed, and then it literally paralyzes people. And I've seen
mhm.
this recently, and it was funny that someone had pointed out to me because I just couldn't see that. And I'm like, what is the problem, like. And then when I was talking through a situation, someone said, oh my God, it's like that's paralyzing that person. And
Right.
it's like you don't even know where to start. And I feel that that can happen at work a lot, right? And so it's like I said, it's funny to me. I'm like, aha, when I that light bulb goes off, and I see
Right.
that in a coworker, employee, whatever, and it's like, oh. So then, with recognizing that, then I try to guide them differently,
Right. Right.
and so that, like you said, that self-awareness, and even intentions, like you just have to be so aware of that. And I feel if by us giving this information to you guys, you can hopefully recognize it and then help that
Mhm.
person when it paralyzes them and they just don't know where to start.
Right. Right. Because it's so easy to get stuck, right? In that moment when you feel, like you said, paralyzed, and you're stuck. It's essentially is what being paralyzed is. You can't move past that.
Hmm.
So I like the example that you gave, a little bit of it, where you have to, until someone points it out, sometimes you don't
Yes.
realize it's hard to come to that conclusion
Yes.
on your own, right?
Yes.
That's
Yep.
why it's good to talk to a life coach like my dear
Yes.
friend Don here, who can help you get unstuck and help you progress through that and help you build resilience.
Yes. And and this is completely normal, right? Like, I think we all have to realize that they're not permanent roadblocks, right? They're
Right.
signals, and they need to slow down, reassess, develop new strategies. Like, it's not the end all be all, right? You have the power to shift the feelings to move forward, right?
Yeah.
And it's like we just said, acknowledging these things,
Right.
acknowledging the barriers, and what what like it's an opportunity for growth. I feel that like once you recognize that,
Yeah.
like, and that's why I always try to tell people this is not a bad thing. Why do you look at it this way? You know, just
Right.
grow from it, learn from it, right?
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? Somewhere along those same lines is when we think about when things don't go well, or we set ourselves to a certain expectation, let's say, and we think about, oh, quote unquote failing. I'm only saying failing in quotes because, it's your own perception how you perceive that may be. But it's almost like noticing that in those moments, and I can't say this enough, you're building your character, you're building your strength, you're building that skill set that you need to get to that point of resilience, like you're pointing
Yes.
out, right? And it's okay. You're human. Forgive yourself, allow yourself for grace to make mistakes, either big or small, and remove yourself from trying to be so critical of
Yes.
that situation or that decision or that circumstance, right?
Yes, because we can overthink that, right? So I'm sure you're like, okay, yeah, Claudia, easier said than done. Yes, it's
Sure.
so true, right? But there are some strategies that you can implement immediately, right?
Right.
Which is mind shift. That is my biggest thing, right? So when I talk to someone and I start asking questions, it's like I want to know their state of mind because I feel that, once you get like when you go in that direction, you can help break it down. You need to have that growth mindset. Like I do feel people can change. We are creatures of habits, things like that. But I
Sure.
just feel if you have that intention, that determination, that will, like I do believe people can change, right? So,
Right.
and you can, it's honestly rewiring your brain, right?
Mhm.
So I think that seeing the challenges, that they're not a permanent thing, I
Right.
think will help you have that as an opportunity to learn, right? Because I feel when you talk to them, they're like, they do feel like it's a permanent thing and it's not, right? So when you're in the thick of it, ask yourself, what can I learn from this?
Mhm.
This is a small shift that can turn difficult situations into stepping stones. So I think that's the best way that I can put it, like when you want to shift that mind. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think those are great tips, Don. And I think that again, it's a skill set, right? This resilience can be learned, right? And there's different ways to go about it, but I like the pointers you just gave too. And also to add to that, I think it's maybe helping yourself to, if you can, right, is talk it through someone with someone, and
Hmm.
see what perspective they give you. Because
Hmm.
again, when you're in that moment, you don't see past that. You don't see past that
Right.
barrier, that difficult, whatever it is that you may be experiencing. But talking it through with someone is going to only hopefully help you see it from a different perspective.
That's
Right.
true. And that goes back to vulnerability, right? Like we're not
Hmm.
meant to go through life alone, right?
Right.
So you really do need to reach out to someone that you trust.
Hmm.
Let them know you're struggling, whether
Yeah.
that's a friend, a life coach, um, a therapist, I don't care, sharing your journey with someone, who understands could make a world of difference. So I think that's tip number 2, right? Lean on your support system. Thank you. That's a good one, Claudia.
Yeah.
I always think too, like, building those healthy habits really do help, right? So resilience isn't just about your mind, it's also about your body, because we've talked about this before where it does affect your body, like your thoughts and your actions and your lifestyle, right? It really, like, if you listen to your body, it'll tell you a lot of things too, right? So I think just trying to establish like routines, to support the mental and physical health of you, of yours, me, meditation, love it, love it, love it. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not big on exercising. I love to walk, but
Sure.
meditation is my thing. Journaling, I try, but I'm more of a talker. I feel like you guys, this is my form of therapy and letting things out, right? But it's whatever makes you feel centered, I think
Hmm.
is the key,
Sure.
is consistency, right? Like getting centered, having that consistency, even on the hardest days, you can't let those things go. Like, cause I feel when it's a hard day, it all goes out the window, but that's
Right.
when you really need to stay strong and consistent.
And that's a great point, because without consistency, as we know, right? If you're trying to make a change to yourself, your body, your mind, your thoughts, whatever that may be, you need to be consistent, because if you're not consistent, you will not progress, right? So
Hmm.
reminding yourself, I deserve right now to take a moment to me to be able to get through this. Right?
Yes.
Why am I experiencing? Okay, I can't do this on my own. Let me connect with someone that understands me, with someone who can lend an ear for the
Hmm.
next, 10 minutes, because I need to, express myself or just
Hmm.
release. You're not looking for anyone to
Yes.
problem solve for
Yes.
you, but more so like a soundboard,
I know,
right?
and it's so funny because sometimes I found myself when I said it out loud, I'm like, oh, I have my own answer. You know what I mean? But I think developing coping strategies, right?
Hmm.
So when you're feeling that stress or overwhelmed, you got to practice breathing,
Right.
meditation, because I know someone's always not going to be available, and I get that. I
Right.
think that's the easiest way. But if, like they say, you can't get to someone, breathe, right?
Hmm.
Go somewhere, meditate, like seriously, just have that silence, right? Just
Yeah.
for a few minutes. You don't need, anything. And it really is powerful, to calm your nerves, to calm your system, like your body, right? And then, like I said, you can always write these thoughts down. Like I think Claudia, you're the one that actually told me one time. And I told you, oh my God, I have all these ideas and they just come at me. And you told me get a voice recorder, and I was like, oh my God, you're so smart. So like I can tell you, I'm not big on writing. I express myself better verbally, right?
Sure.
No,
Hmm.
no surprise. I have a podcast. So, take voice notes if you're not into like, journaling, right? Just get it out of your head and onto paper or somewhere else so that you can see it from a fresh perspective.
Hmm. Yeah. No, I love that. That's a great reminder, Don, because a lot of times we forget again in that moment. Believe us when we tell you that if you're able to walk away, even if it's for 10 minutes to decompress, then do that. Because your body and your mind will respond. If your mind is full, your body will respond, right? You'll literally start
Hmm.
feeling it in your body, in your physical being. So do something for yourself. Again, cut yourself some slack, give yourself some grace. And like you said, be attuned to the body and where you feel it in your body, right? I think that's also a good point there, is check in. Where am I feeling the pressure in my head? Am I, my hands? Where exactly are you feeling it? Right? And
I
be
know.
mindful and present in that.
Yes. And I'm going to go off a little subject here because you said this, but I didn't realize I've learned through, my self healing process that,
Mhm.
we carry emotions in our body.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that, like last year when I don't know if I shared this before, but when I was going through a hard time, I started to have like a knot in my throat. And I'm like, oh my, like I literally felt it. And I'm like, is it going to come up, go down? Like it just sat there and it bothered me. And
Mhm.
it's like, I remember I went to a Reiki specialist
Mhm.
and I could not
Right.
believe one session. I'm not lying. Like I didn't realize
Yeah.
that, how we, our experiences, like how it literally sits with us when they say stress can kill. Like, and I laid on that bed and she didn't touch me. I mean, like just if you know Reiki, like they're over top of you, their hands are above you and they're trying to pull
Sure.
out that energy. And I mean, I'm not lying. The knots from my throat went away and have not come back. But she said the reason why that was there is because I felt, and I know I wasn't being heard. And we all know, hello, I need to be heard. And so my body was literally reacting. And I was
Yes.
holding that stress because I didn't feel heard. And
Good.
ironically, I had that knot in my throat. And
Yes.
when she went, I mean, tears like dropped down my face
Mhm.
uncontrollably, like I couldn't control it. And I
Right.
literally felt the release. It
Yes.
was amazing. And I'm telling you, like, I'll never forget that experience. I didn't
Mhm.
know anything about it. Someone suggested, and I'm like, I'll do anything right now to feel better. Like, cause
Yes.
I felt it and I couldn't believe. just in one session the amazing
Mm,
impact that it
that's what
had
she said.
on
Right.
me. And I literally, like, I remember laying there. It's like, how do I feel her in two places? And when I opened my eyes, she was at my feet, but I felt it higher up. And I looked up, I was like, what? And she says, like, if you still have some trauma or something that's like there, it'll still pull it out. Like it'll still come out. It was amazing. But I wanted to talk about this because I feel, you know, um, it's a skill set I would love for everyone to have. You
Hmm.
can build on it. And because life will always be lifing,
Yes.
I just thought it's a really good topic. And I want people to understand, how this impacts us mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually,
Right.
and just really sit with yourself, reflect, and get help however it works for you. I'm going to
Yeah.
tell you my experiences, what I think. Claudia will offer her opinion, but ultimately it's going to take you to do something.
Hmm.
You cannot have change without making change.
That's
And
correct.
so, it's, yeah, I can go on and on and on, but I'll let Claudia.
No, I love that. And thank you for sharing that personal experience you had, Don. I think that again it's important we share this information, hopefully this information to you, the listeners out there, in hopes that we touch, if it's not one or a few or more people, because believe me that life is so much better when you take care of yourself
Yes.
and your well-being. And you need to, right? Because we always give this example in my line of work is, if, and we all know this, if we've ever been in an airplane, if the airplane goes down, the first thing they
Hmm.
tell you is you need
Hmm.
to put on that air mask before anything. Okay, this is what life is. You need to put on your own air mask before you try to help
Hmm.
others, before you
Amen.
try to be present for anything else. So this is why we're sending today's messages in resilience. Look it up, look into it a little bit more, reach out to Don, for your coach. I'm really promoting you today, huh, Don?
So am I, and
I
this was
love
not
it.
intentional.
No, it wasn't.
So funny. So, my breakaway tip, the next time you're feeling challenged, right? Take a moment, breathe, and ask yourself, what is this teaching me? Like, I just can't say that enough to you, okay? Reach out to someone in your circle. Remember, you don't, have to do this alone, okay? And finally, remember that resilience is a journey. Celebrate the small wins along the way and trust that each step is growing stronger. You are growing stronger. You have to trust that process. So keep pushing, keep shining, keep thriving.